He's gonna swing the gavel.
You want me to tell Rob? Yes. Rob, we're ready. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to call this Board of Zoning Adjustment hearing to order today, June 14th, 2023. Jessica, may I get a roll call, please?
Mac,
Here.
Heather, Rob, Trini,
Here.
Landon,
Here.
and Marcos.
Here.
Thank you, Jessa. Mr. Davis, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Mr. Davis, can you bring to our attention Appeal 3486 submitted by Mr. Scott McCord, please?
Yes. Proposed appeal number 3486 is submitted by Scott McCord for the property located at 645 West Main. Applicant is requesting a 30-foot front yard variance and a 17.5-foot side yard setback for the northeast side and a 17.5-foot side yard setback variance for the southwest side to build a storage facility for an office pursuant to Article 27 Schedule of Regulations, Schedule B, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned N1. Notices were sent to surrounding neighbors. As far as to my knowledge, there haven't been any calls concerning this appeal. The property was recently rezoned from the HIP district to the M1 to allow for construction of a storage facility and an office for Mr. McCord's Lawn Care Company. The setback for an M1 is 50 foot from the front yard and 50 foot for side yard if abutting a residential district. A HIP can be either commercial or residential. So we have allowed for everything to be set according to the residential schedule, even though the lots are not currently developed. The variance worksheet states that there are special circumstances for this particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. The topography of the lot makes it impossible to meet the required setbacks and still maintain a reasonable building area on the lot. There is a drop off at the rear of the lot, which requires placement of the structure toward the front of the property, as well as narrowing of the property at the rear. So the property, if you look at the topography map, the property kind of goes down like this at an arrow. So to build something on that would require everything to move forward and kind of centered. Let's see, strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of land. Special circumstances, they state in their worksheet, are: 1, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare in that the structure will be built to code. 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that the property will be used as M1, which is what the neighboring properties are used as. The lot is hidden from Main Street on one of the last gravel streets in Henderson, West Main. Number 3, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that watershed will be kept on the lot. And number 4, the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the buildable area of the lot is affected by topography. Staff has reviewed the request. We recommend approval and submit the request for the board's consideration and action.
Does this board have any further questions for Mr. Davis?
The only one would be, that, we assume that lot was basically platted off prior to existing zoning ordinances and all. I mean, that's-
Yeah, it was on the riverfront. If you look at that lot historically, M1 was the usage.
Yeah.
The grain bins right
Right.
not really close to it. It's right off West Main. We also have the sand, I forget what it is, the sand place that, anyway, it's all, there's a lot of industrial usage of there.
Right.
But you do have on the other side lots that could be developed for residential. So that is a potential.
Okay.
Does this board have any further questions for Mr. Davis? If not, I will ask the applicant to approach the podium and sign in with your name and address, please.
Right
here, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Scott McCord, 645 West Main Street, is property in question.
Mr. McCord, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
I can't see the camera where you are, Mr. McCord, so please let me know when when you're signed in.
Is there a sign sheet?
Is there a sign in?
There isn't, we didn't bring it.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you, lady.
You're very welcome.
Do you have a pen, Scott?
No, I do not, I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're supposed to provide that anyway.
I'm gonna print, because you would not be able to read my writing, so I'm gonna do that. So, you can leave that right here for everybody to sign in.
Please.
Okay. It's fine. What do I need to get for the camera? Right here, is that the camera, or what?
There should be a camera right here.
Okay,
Yes, I've got you now.
okay. What do I need to repeat? Is there something I need to repeat, or?
No, is there anything that you would like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony?
No, actually, head on with what he's asking for. That's exactly what I'm needing right now to be able to build. The topography is definitely challenging right now with what we're working with, and it's just very narrow in the rear, and I've got to pull it forward to be able to build the size I'm wanting to build. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Does this board have any questions for Mr. McCord? Does this board have any questions for Mr. McCord? If not, Mr. McCord, if you would like, you may be seated.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3486? Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3486?
Yes, Dane Shields.
Mr. Shields, would you sign in with your name and
will.
address, please?
I will, yes, sir. Dane Shields, 101 First, and I'll sign the sheet.
Okay, Mr. Shields, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
What would you like to add, please?
I'm an attorney in Henderson, so I represent the adjoining landowners to this piece of property in question that's located on West Main Street. The owners are Lori Nelson, Pamela Allen, and Susan Carter. Their father, Laz Puckett, owned the adjoining property to this, and then if you go across Jackson Street, which goes right through there by the water department, they own the properties on the other side of Jackson Street. This was residential property and still is. They grew up on the property. They have plans for the property, which is probably going to include residential development. We think with their request for residential development, they are not interested and are opposed to commercial development encroaching over into the setback space, which now protects their property. They're not opposed to granting of a variance on the other side of the property, which is closest to the grain elevator, if they don't object. But as far as moving it up to the front and coming over in their direction where they own residential lots, they are opposed to that. Now, they had a boundary line fence there. It was an old fence that their dad erected more than 40 years ago, and in the course of bulldozing this property, their fence was bulldozed down without notice or consent. And that's really not a factor before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, but I think the issue is encroachment on residential lot. Now, Mr. McCord has a nice place there, and it's on Main Street, and then this will be a commercial building that he controls the size of. So what we would ask, we're asking that the variance on their side in the front be denied. And that doesn't keep him from building a building, but it may influence the size of the building. Then he could shift it over toward the elevator if y'all are amenable to granting that. So we would ask your consideration on keeping the status quo on the residential and not allowing encroachment by way of a variance. We think that granting the variance will in fact change the essential character of the neighborhood and the adjoining lot, which my clients own. And I believe Pamela Allen is one of the three sisters. And are there questions? I'd be happy to. Yes, Landon.
I'm looking at the plat.
Yes.
And let me make sure I understand. Your clients own the lot that faces West Main, that is on the corner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Basically the corner of,
Numerically, what lot is it?
Numerically, it's, it's this lot right here. I think I can give you a number for, I don't know if the number is on that plat, but I believe it's 1349. Let's see if that's right. No, it's the one across the Jackson Street, but it's this lot right here, and this lot right here.
653 and 107?
Yes. So this is the property in question, I believe.
What you're circling right there, is that not the existing building?
That's proposed.
That's
the
proposed. This is the gravel
Okay.
street called West Main Street.
Yes.
And it's like right behind the water district. I didn't know there was a gravel street there, but there used
I
to
didn't
be
even know.
houses there. People lived there. And so this is the proposed lot, rectangular. And then they own this lot right here, and then they own all of the residential lots. This is Jackson Street extended. It's the street, there's Hancock, Jackson, and so this is Jackson Street right here. And they own on both sides of Jackson Street, and there was a home, there used to be a home here and a home here, and they grew up in a home right out here. So,
Dane, their lot is to what I would assume would be the southwest of the lot in question a little bit.
yes, sir.
Right, okay.
Yes, so,
And,
the lot that's adjacent to 645 that Mr. Shields is primarily discussing is lot 653 West Main, is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
What is the width of that lot?
This first lot is 25 feet, I believe, and then the lot beside it is 50, and they own both lots. So they would be.
so if they were gonna build on it, they'd have to consolidate the lots.
Exactly.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now, the question is, their objection is to the front yard setback, not the side yard.
They're objecting to the front yard variance and the variance on their side, which
Okay.
will bring this commercial building encroaching over toward their lot. Now, they don't object to this side. My understanding is that he's requested a variance on both sides.
Yeah, according to the residential setback, which would be 50 feet, so that would actually be 32 and a half feet from the property line.
Okay. All right. So they're not objecting over here, I mean, that involves another owner, and they're not here, and it's a grain elevator. So I don't see why they would care, but, these people who own the residential lots care. And, would like it to maintain the status quo, and they have, plans that they're developing right now to develop this. So,
Dane, if, and I don't know whether this is possible, I don't know what Mr. McCord thinks about it, but if he had a variance closer to the property line with the grain elevator, would your client still object to, move the side and front yard variance and let him move northeast?
we have no objection to him moving and getting a variance toward the elevator. None.
Well, but the front yard variance fronts West Main,
Correct.
but they still object to that.
We think so. I mean, he's asking for a 30-foot, and if you have a residential lot right beside it and there's a commercial building right up on your street, that kind
Well, that
of
would be a
defeats the
yes.
purpose of a building setback line.
Yes.
Hey, oh, this was recently rezoned from HIP to M1. Did you appear before the planning commission or follow the objections to the rezon?
I did not. I wasn't in
All right,
this.
I just wanted.
No, to answer your question.
The, if their intentions are that, since West Main is a gravel street, will that not have to be developed into a street?
I couldn't tell you. It is a street presently. I mean, as far as developed, you mean upgraded to
I mean,
asphalt?
be paved.
Paved.
I don't think there's any intention to pave it at this point.
But in order for them to develop it and put a residential building on it, would the street in front of it have to be paved?
I think part of that's because
That w-
on the planning commission.
Yeah.
When they submit their development plan.
Well, I'm just wondering because, that's area kind of like, no one really knew about this area, so I mean, this is kind of like one of those, probably why I maybe assumed always that was an alley as opposed to not being considered a street.
It's considered a street, so.
Yeah. And I know there used to be a lot of houses that were actually set on the alley at times, so.
There are a few, yeah. That's how they address this.
Jackson Street right there, I mean, as you come down Jackson Street, you look into this area and there's beautiful lots down Jackson Street, both right here and right here that are, especially if you consolidated them and had one big lot, it would, I mean, you're close to the river and
Real close.
you're real close and,
He's going to be right now. How far is he going to have to be? Now, he wanted what?
I don't know. I can't
Thirty
read,
max.
I can't read the
What?
numbers on it.
What is the distance now that the post? I know that he got a variance there because of the 50-foot, it's not then, but what is, now it's going to be what?
32 and a half feet
32
from
and a
the
half
side
feet.
yard and 20 foot from the road,
The
which is
road.
what would be required for a HIP in residential as well.
All right. And Mr. McCard's property is directly in front of this on the,
It's,
I guess you'd say on the east side of West Main there?
yeah, it's actually, the water department is right here. And he has a nice structure up the West Main
Yeah.
in this area, fronting on Main Street.
All right, so the front yard setback now will be 25.
Will be 20 feet. He's asking for a 30-foot variance, which would make it a 20-foot.
Okay, so he's going to have a 20-foot there, and the normal setback for residential would have been 25, correct?
Well, for a HIP, it's 20.
For him, it's 20?
Look, I'm verifying it.
Well,
Okay.
actually, for a HIP, you can build right on the street. but yet there are exceptions. The front minimum setback can be 0, except provided for contextual setbacks.
So if they were building on the lots, they would probably, their fronts would be comparable to what the front of that building would be, correct?
They could build, well, it'd be contextual, but they could build right on the street. I mean, it says front yard setback requirements is 0 for residential. But it
Well, that's
has,
because they're more the downtown district, right? I mean, that's what
Yes.
they're dealing with your sidewalk and then the building, that's
yeah, it's the property line.
right. So could be some, but that's going to come before the planning for
Yeah.
that. And I can't see that they would go in that situation there. I mean, if it was developed street, with sidewalk and all, okay,
I'm sure that
since it's not now, I really wonder if they would not feel like there's more need to be the setback, at least 20 or 25 is what normal.
that may require a sidewalk. I mean, that's traditionally what is
I
required.
was going to say, if they have a sidewalk, more likely we're going to have to pave streets.
Steve, if they consolidated those lots,
Yep.
they would be 75 feet wide, and I don't know how deep. But since it is a corner lot, would they have to have 2 front yard setbacks?
Well, I think is there 3 lots there that would need to be consolidated for it to be corner on the front of Hancock? or
Well, that,
Jefferson?
that one there, I don't know, that one, right, the one there next to Jackson,
Oh, there's 2?
there's 3 lots actually, the way it shows.
Yeah.
Right now, the one is only like 25, so it's either going to have to be consolidated or
It's only
either.
2.
It looks like
move the
there's
property
this-
line over.
It looks like that's a property line right there, and that this is an easement. So there's 2 lots there with a big easement before the road,
Yeah.
Jackson,
I think that's a lot, and this is a lot.
and the other one's easement,
Right.
or we'll call it, it's right of way, I'm sorry.
It's Jackson.
Yeah, it's the right of way for Jackson.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of land in between the road and the corner of that lot, but that would be considered 2 front yards, yes.
And, okay.
But the lot that would be adjacent to Mr. McCord's property would be, right now, it would not really be buildable unless they consolidate part of it to the lot next to it, and either,
Well, if you consolidate them, they'd only be 75 feet then. So you'd have to
Right.
consolidate both of them, I think.
But I don't know,
Steve?
as far as in the hip, what does it have for the minimum lot size on the hip? Is
Okay.
that also one of those?
Minimum lot width for a single family, would be 20 feet.
20 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's really, I think that's more of the downtown where your buildings are built, property line, property line.
Yeah, and Mike, those homes that were just recently built next to Audubon Street,
Yes.
those are very thin lots
Right.
with nice homes on them.
Right. But they are also, they're set back though, correct?
Yeah, those setbacks on them.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Could we
Yes.
ask Mr. McCord if there would be a possibility? Yeah.
Yes, if Mr. Shields is done with his testimony, we'll bring Mr. McCord up and see and ask for his response. Thank you, Mr. Shields. Mr. McCord, can you approach and let me remind you, you are under oath still.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to add to the discussion of what Mr. Shields has commented on?
Well, I'm just trying to get a grasp on the width of the property is what I'm wanting to do, and it's gonna be, I've already brought in a lot of fill dirt to pack it in. We have the ravine next to it that is washing away, and I'm trying to help keep the erosion from going, and the lot in question to the left of me, right behind the water department, it's not so much that I can't shift it a little bit, it's a problem, it's not the granary's property, it's actually the city of Henderson's property that I am in negotiation to try to purchase too, and if I already had that property, I could shift it even more, but I don't have that option right now. I'm very limited on what I've got to work with right now. I'm just trying to get as much width as I can because it's not very deep at all. That's my biggest problem is I'm limited on my width right now. And I'm not trying to ask for the world. I'm just trying to ask for a little assistance here to be able to get it built.
If this is a storage building, correct?
It's gonna be for my business, yes, storage for
Okay,
equipment.
Basically, you're going to bring
Yes. I've
stuff
got-
in, you have basically overhead doors, what?
Oh, yeah, three 16 by 14 overhead doors, what I'm planning on doing with jack shaft operators. It's all gonna be commercial codes, gutters.
Which would be would that be facing the west main?
Facing West Main. I can't go the other way because of trying to come around and pull trailers in and
Right.
all that. It's gonna, especially if I'm
If
jammed
you
up.
move right.
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely,
Right.
I'd like to have side doors, but if I had to shift, I'm not gonna be able to do that because of being able to get, it's just tight on, even at the setbacks I'm asking for, it's gonna be hard to get trucks and trailers sideways in. I might have to go long ways in.
Right.
And that's why I'm going trying to go a certain width and a certain depth, and I'm going obviously a lot deeper than I am wide because the lot's not that wide as it is right now.
Right.
I think it's 125 or something like that, and it's just not enough for.
There's, in the rear, I mean, there's also markings here of indication, is this just a consolidation of us?
When you go to the bottom. All right,
Yes.
Okay.
there you go. I think what he's asking.
It's like, basically a square,
Oh,
you
go
know.
back, Justin.
Oh.
I think he's asking you what this is.
What that one right there is?
Yes.
All I know is, sir, it was 3 lots consolidated into one. I think that was 1 lot, 2 lots, and that was 3 lots.
Okay, all right, so that was actually a separate lot that's being consolidated into
3 lots that we
Okay.
consolidated
All
for, to be able to do the commercial, the M1, and it just made more sense, and that's why it was like 3 different addresses, and now we're down to 1 address now.
Right.
So that's kind of, but yeah, that was a separate lot. There was actually, from what I understand, 3 different homes here at one time. So 1, 2, and 3, that's supposedly what I was told. Now, I wasn't around to see
Yeah,
that, but
right.
everybody saying lot next door in the water district, it said they remember them. So, look, everything's gone now, obviously. So I'm just, like I said, like I said, my proposal is trying to center it as best as possible for drive. I'm gonna try and put a drive around it for work purposes and everything, obviously.
Does this board have any additional questions for Mr. McCord?
Okay, right.
Mr. McCord, you may be
Wait,
seated.
wait.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on a
Wait,
second.
wait a minute, Rob, Mac,
I'm trying to figure, okay. That back on, side yard, so next is 17 and a half on either side.
So traditionally, when it's abutting residential, it'd be 50 feet from the
Right.
side. So he's asking for a variance of 17 and a half, which would make it 32 and a half.
I mean, I can see possibly you could, I'm not talking about going, taking all of it the other way, going up right against the property line, but if they, 17 feet, if you ended up having, moved over, say, 10 feet there, and that would pull the other side, be 7 foot closer to the other line, the property line, so you'd actually be like a, to have it, no, wait a minute, actually, you're 32, it's. What the hell we got?
Hey, believe me, Steve
Yeah.
and I had the same conversation. I was all jacked up when he was on the phone with me. I was like, hold on a second, what are we asking for again?
Yeah.
How's this working? Because I got the thing.
So right, what you're asking for right now, you will have like 32 feet
32 and a half feet on either side,
on either side
and then 20 foot off the roadway.
off the road. So could you have 40 foot on one side and then, which would bump it up to, I mean, I'm trying to say,
Move it over.
move it over
Move it
some,
over.
but not necessarily.
It's gonna push the envelope for drive around. That's the biggest, I'm trying to make a drive around it and keep off, because that ravine drops off so bad
Okay.
if you're facing it to the left, and that's where I put in,
Could we
like,
go to the topography?
Yeah, there was.
You see that there, it makes a little triangle right there in the front. So on the right side there, there's not a whole lot of room. I mean, there is room, but the lot kind of drops off in the back.
about right in here is like, maybe a little further, maybe right there.
It starts to drop where.
It drops off, and then
Yeah.
over here, about right there, it drops off again, and
Yeah.
then back there, it completely is off the map.
So It's,
Alright.
it's really not buildable.
It's hard, it's
Rear
gonna be,
portion.
I'm struggling now as it is to get
Right.
this plan, I can't even get complete plans up yet until we get this figured out, because I gotta lay it right, and I can't order materials until I know exactly how it's gonna
I understand you
lay.
there, right.
No, I'm just limited on, it's the ravine on the left that's the biggest problem, but the right side too, if I don't have that property yet, I can't really push it that way anymore either and do any more fill there. I'm limited,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, like I say, you got 32, if you're trying to have a circle drive around there to pull stuff around.
It's just gonna be a lot easier
Yeah,
for me with equipment and trailers
You're gonna have
and
to have, 25 feet at minimum, at least width there.
you're a builder, you understand that. That's where I'm at. I'm like trying to be safe about
Right.
it, not hit the building. I like to have my 10-foot driveway at least around it, and that's where, it's just tight. It's gonna be tight.
I'm looking at the topo lines there.
Mhm.
Their property, that, Dane, that you're dealing with, the way they're gonna have to be built basically pretty close to the front too to consolidate.
There's no way they'll be able to go to the back because their
Yeah,
drops
that's what I'm
off.
saying, it's way it's falling off there.
I'm right in there.
Yeah.
These are the two properties in question, I believe, that are next to me.
Right.
This one right here, there's not even, if you build something on that right there, it's gonna be tough with the setbacks they're gonna be required too.
Yeah,
Well, now, I don't know that much about topographical maps, but it looks to me like Dane's client's lot starts dropping off
within-
closer to, closer to West Main Street than Mr. McCord's lot.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
Now, I don't know that it drops off so much you couldn't build on it, but it looks like there's a gradual and then there's a real steep.
I mean, it could be like a, walk out basement situation there
Yeah.
but you're dealing with, 108, 107, so that's just there's a foot change from here to there.
Here, there.
Yeah.
Well, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Mac, are you still looking it over?
Yeah, I'm just trying to comprehend what could be done here.
You're gonna still have issues turning around with the,
I shouldn't have as much now, Marcos, because I ended up putting in about 6 trucks of loads of fill dirt and rock, and we had a dozer pack it for compaction for them if they can build closer to it.
yeah, because if you turn around next to the elevator, you're gonna still have issues if it's 120 deep.
Well, not really. I'll be able to come out on the road and then back trailers in. I'll be fine. There's enough room with that. That's not a problem there. It's side yards, the sides, I wouldn't be able to back in that easily because it's so, even with what I'm asking now, it's with 20-foot, 40, 25-foot trailers, it's gonna be tight getting in.
Are you gonna be coming in off of West Main?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I can come through my lot either way. I mean, I'm gonna get on West Main regardless, because I've gotta get to the building, which will be on
Right.
West Main. I mean, I can come through my lot too, as far as that goes, not a problem. I'm not gonna try and stir up, everybody upset, me going in and out a bunch, but we use it now, no one's complaining, so
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm just trying to.
Well, I know, I understand
Trying to
that.
make it, that place, to me, what I've done so far, it looks incredible, and I'm getting it's a complete river view now, and the compliments we're getting, I'm not gonna build something that's going, I don't wanna upset anybody. I want it looking right, and I want it professional looking. I'm very extremely particular about my properties, what I work on as well as my own, and this will look really nice. And, you know, I spent a lot of money rezoning it, trying not to have a problem with any of this, and, you know, the HIP scenario it was in had no bit, it shouldn't even been in HIP to begin with, obviously, and now it's, to me, it's in a better, it's financially better for the city to be M1 because it's the tax, I'll be paying more taxes, y'all will be, it's just worth more for everyone, and it's gonna look better when it's done. It was just grown up and looking rough, you know. So, and I cleared all the trees out, got everything completely done now to where it's not gonna be a problem at all with you know, with any of the, we just gotta now get it graded and get it figured out, the building, what we're gonna do for sure.
There wouldn't be any entrances or anything on adjacent to their property, so y'all.
Oh, no. No, I'm not gonna put them on the sides as far as, no, I don't plan on that at all. If I did one, it would be on the Sandlot side, which is to the right of my building. If I put a slide or something like that for like a draft scenario, I'd put it that way. I would never put it on their side because it's too tight over there. When you come around that ravine, even with all that topsoil, well, not topsoil, filter I put in, it's just, I'm already leery about coming around as it is because it drops off. I mean, it's bad. And I don't want anything coming nowhere near that at all over there. I'm not, and I understand it's their property and I don't want them upset to where I wouldn't have a lot of dust and traffic going in and out right there. My goal is to pretty well, if I can come in off of, was it Jackson or whatever street it is right beside the Water District, right there, come in and take a right, and then I'll back in off of West Main facing my shop is what my goal is to do. But if we do have to come around for some reason, you know, that's the only time I'd ever do it. But I will not be having a door on their side other than I have the three on the front, obviously, the 16 by 14s.
When they changed the sun, they should address. They was okay with it?
I mean, you know,
Do we have any additional questions for Mr. McCord?
Normally, in a residential situation, you know, your setback or your side yard, anyone would be, you know, 8 or 10 feet, like that. And of course, you're gonna be 32 feet now, so you're a good distance away. You're farther away than the width of their property.
I think so. I mean, this is what I'm, you know, I'm just not trying to ask for the world. I'm just, you know, 17 and a half feet, you know, on either side and 20 off. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't change a lot considering, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking. That's all I can do is just to try to build this the right way.
I have a question.
Yes,
for,
sir.
Mr. Shields.
Yes.
This should be addressed when they changed to the zoning. You guys then was aware to the changing of the zoning?
No, well, this wasn't on the board then. This plan wasn't, and I got hired on this appeal. So
Yeah,
I
the only
wasn't.
time we ever heard anything was on this.
Excuse me, if we're asking Mr. Shields questions, we need to get him up to the podium. I need to remind him that he is, under oath. Please re-ask your question
Okay,
to,
sorry.
Mr. Shields, so we
Yes.
have it on, video.
This should be addressed when they was doing the changing of the zoning, don't it?
I don't
So-
think so. I mean, we're here tonight on a variance. That's what we're here tonight on. And I represent the adjoining landowner who's objecting to a discretionary variance which will allow a commercial building to encroach beyond the setback lines toward their property. So, I mean, this is a freestanding hearing on a variance.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you.
I know what you're saying. If the zoning had never changed, we may not be here.
Yeah.
But it was changed with the setback lines, and now we're here for a variance. And on our side.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
We've, Mr. McLeod, we kind of called you off the podium. Is there anything more that you would like to say at the podium, Mr. McCord?
if there's no further questions or whatever, I'm good unless, I'll answer anything. Y'all have any more questions or anything?
Okay, does anybody have any more questions for Mr. McCord? Okay, thank you, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Mr. Shields, I'm gonna call you back to the podium, please.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Shields, was there anything else that you would like to add, or does this board have any additional questions for Mr. Shields? Okay, if not, thank you, Mr. Shields, you may be seated.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to follow good protocol, everyone. Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3486? If there is anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3486, please approach the podium. Please sign in with your name and address, please. Please state your name.
Pamela Allen.
Ms. Allen, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What would you like to add to this testimony, please?
Well, I feel like Mr. Shields pretty much covered everything, but we are the property owners and have reached a point where we are now, since we've inherited this property, going to make some things happen for it. And I don't know the people that may buy it or what we may build on it would appreciate something right up on their property. But I think you pretty much covered
Okay.
everything, so.
Okay. Does the Board of Zoning Adjustment have any questions for Ms. Allen? If not, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against Appeal 3486? Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or against Appeal 3486? Please approach the podium. Jessa, do we have anybody online that might be wanting to discuss this appeal?
Rob, you're the
Jessa?
only one online.
I'm the only one online?
Yes.
Okay. If there is no one here to speak for or against Appeal 3486, I'm going to close the open forum and ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I move we grant appeal number 3486 for variances relating to the property located at 645 West Main Street, Henderson, Kentucky. Applicant seeks a 30-foot front yard setback variance and a 17.5-foot side yard setback variance to the northeast side of the lot and a 17.5 side yard variance setback to the southwest side of the lot. The variance is needed in order to build an office and storage facility for applicant's lawn care business on the property which is currently zoned M1. The appeal will be granted with the following conditions. The proposed improvements will not divert water runoff onto any neighboring property, nor will it alter the natural flow of water. The improvements to be added to the property will comply with the Henderson City Building Codes. The evidence submitted through the written documents attached to the appeal and submitted through the testimony presented during the preceding hearing confirms and we find: 1, the lot has a very odd topography with a drop-off toward the rear of the property, which backs up to the Ohio River, and also narrows in width toward the rear of the lot, all of which requires an improvement to the lot to be toward the front. 2, the required setbacks for a lot zoned M1, together with the shape and topography of the lot, presents a unique situation which make it difficult to meet front and side yard setbacks and adequately use the property. 3, the shape and topography, especially the drop-off and narrowness in the rear of the lot, make it impossible to meet the required setbacks and still maintain a reasonable building area. 4, the strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance imposes an unreasonable and unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprives the applicant of reasonable use of the land, in that the lot layout makes it impossible for placement of the proposed structure without variances. Further, the aforementioned evidence presented showed that the granting of this appeal will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, as the proposed additions and planned use which make the variance necessary are permitted under the current zoning. Will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity which is used for mixed commercial and/or residential uses. For the same reason, we find the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public and will not allow any unreasonable circumvention of the zoning requirements of Henderson, Kentucky.
Second.
Is there any further discussion among this board? If not, I will ask for a vote, please.
Mac,
Yes.
Landon,
Yes.
Marcos,
Yes.
Rob.
Rob,
Mr. McCord, Appeal 3486 has been granted in your favor. I would like to thank everyone who came forward to discuss this appeal. Thank you very much. Our next appeal, 3487. Mr. Davis, can you bring that to our attention, please?
Yes. Proposal appeal number 3487 is submitted by Holy Name Parish of Henderson for the property located at 220 North Ingram. Applicant is requesting a 15-foot front yard and 18-foot side yard setback variance for a new maintenance building pursuant to Article 27, Schedule of Regulations, Schedule B, Appendix A, Zoning Code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned general business. Notices were sent to the surrounding neighbors. I think we had one call, but it was not related to the particular, it was a totally separate phone call, not related to this. The property was recently rezoned to accommodate the use of the building from R3 to general business. The new structure's footprint is similar to the existing building. A lot of the property owned on that block is actually owned by the church. The variance worksheet states that there are special circumstances for this particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. The topography, if you notice, the front of the yard has a little bit of a retaining wall. The topography of the lot make it impossible to meet the required setbacks and still maintain a reasonable building area on the lot. The property has a slope that makes placement difficult without dirt work. The building will be a slab on grade, and the most suitable location will be similar to the location of the original building. Strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance make it impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant or deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. When the property was rezoned, the setback changed from 20 feet to 25 feet. Special circumstances, they state in the worksheet are: 1, the granting of the variance will not affect public health, safety, or welfare in that the structure will be built to current building standards. Number 2, the granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity in that, hang on a second, the current zoning fits the location. Number 3, the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that all watershed will be contained on the property and it will be a new, more appealing structure. 4, the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the new maintenance facility will be surrounded by church property and the facility is essential to maintaining all church grounds. Staff has reviewed the request. We recommend approval and submit the request for the board's consideration and action.
Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? If not, I'll ask the applicant to approach the podium, please. please sign in with your name and address as thank you. And please state your name.
My name is Harry Matheson. I'm an attorney for the parish.
Mr. Matheson, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. Mr. Matheson, what would you like to add to Mr. Davis' testimony?
Well, there's little that I can add to what he said, but there are two things I want to emphasize specifically. Number one, many of you are probably familiar with this area anyway. It's not very far from where we are. All three sides that are not road are owned by the church already. So we're not going to have any neighbor who's going to be adversely impacted in any way by this. In addition, just for clarification purposes, the structure that is out there right now is dilapidated, and if we all went out there and pushed real hard, we could probably push it over in a very short period of time. Something needs to be done with it. The church has used that building before it became the condition it's in for storage, and the only thing we anticipate using this new building for is storage as well. So there's not going to be any increase in traffic in the area as a result of this. There's not going to be, as Mr. Davis said, any change in water flow or anything of that nature. No neighbor is going to be adversely impacted by it because, as I said, with the exception of Ingram Street, all the land around it is either owned by the church or constitutes, on two sides at any rate, parking lot for the church. So we do not believe that there's going to be any harm to the public. Public safety is not going to be endangered in any way.
Harry?
Thank you, Mr. Matheson. Does
Nice.
the board have any questions for Mr. Matheson?
Yes. Steve said in his narrative that the footprint will be essentially the same as the building that's there now. Is that accurate according to the church plans?
I believe it is. I think the
It's
drawing was submitted with the application.
Yeah, it's similar, it's not exact.
We're
Okay, well,
showing
we don't
the
know what
new
the
building
exist-
to be 30 feet by 48 feet.
30 by 48, yeah. I'm not sure what the existing building is, to tell you the truth.
Harry, I think it's one.
Oh,
I can speak to the size of the existing building.
why don't you come up here and sign in and take the oath? I'll sign in for you.
Please state your name.
I'm Brad Edens, Maintenance Supervisor of Holy Name Parish.
I didn't catch your name.
Brad Edens.
Mr. Edith, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. What would you like to add to the testimony?
I just want to speak on, there is a small difference in the size of the structure that is currently there and the one that we will be erecting. What is currently there is about 32 by 42 to 44. It's very close, and we're going to put up a 30 by 48. So Steve was absolutely correct in saying it was similar, but no, it is not exactly the same.
All right, will it encroach any closer to the street than the existing structure?
Actually, it's going to get a little farther away.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good.
Yes.
Okay, are there any additional questions for Mr. Edith or Mr. Matheson? If there are no additional questions, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3487? Anybody here to speak for or against Appeal 3487? If so, please approach the podium. If there is no one here to speak for or against Appeal 3487, I'll close the open forum and ask for a motion, please.
I'll try. Yes. Chairman, I'd like to move that we grant Appeal 3487 for a 15-foot front yard and an 18-foot side yard setback variance to construct a maintenance facility at the property located at 220 North Ingram Street, with the conditions that all gutters on the property will basically drain away from any adjacent property owners, but since there aren't any, it's not much, but need to get that in there. And anyway, from that, the variance worksheets, states that there was a special circumstances for the particular lot that make it different from other lots in the same zone. Topography of the lot makes it impossible to meet the required setbacks and still maintain a reasonable building area of the lot. The property has a slope and location that will be similar to the location of the original building. The strict application of the provisions of the zoning ordinance impose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant and deprive the applicant of reasonable use of his land. When the property was rezoned, the setback changes from 20 feet to 25 feet. And the granting of this variance will not affect the public health, safety, or welfare in that the structure will be built to current building standards. The granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity. And the granting of the variance will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public in that all watershed will be contained on the property and it will be a new and more appealing structure. And the granting of the variance will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance in that the new maintenance facility will be surrounded by church property and the facility is essentially to maintain all church grounds.
Second.
Is there any further discussion among this board? If not, may I get a vote, please, Jessa?
Mac,
Yes.
Landon,
Yes.
Marcos.
Yes.
Thank you, Jessa. Mr. Mattson, Appeal 3487 has been granted in your favor. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, our next appeal, 3488.
Hey,
excuse me.
Bring that to our
Rob.
attention, please.
Rob,
Yes?
I'm gonna have to.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this next one, and I'll step outside. We still
Okay.
have a quorum.
right. And
Right.
so Rob, on this next
Yes.
one, because Heather's not here, you will be a voting member on the next appeal.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. We'll wait a second, and
I think you're ready.
okay, Mr. Davis, if you'll bring 3488 to our attention, please.
Sure. Boza Appeal 3488 is submitted by Anita Mundrup Ivy for the property located at 1521 South Green Street. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow outdoor storage in a highway commercial district pursuant to Article 21, Section 21.04B, Appendix A zoning code, City of Henderson, Kentucky. This property is zoned highway commercial. All adjoining property owners have been notified. We have not received calls concerning this appeal. There is a little history here, and on May 24, 2022, we did notice there was storage on the exterior of the property. The tenant was contacted, and we told her, under the given circumstances, that she could cover the material with the tarp, and she did so, so she complied. Later on, we noticed that there was more material. Again, it not just materials, but structures. There were 3 structures that were added within the year. None of them were permitted, but they were to house the material or storage that the tenant had. We did finally contact the tenant and inform the tenant that at this rate, that there needed to be a permit for outdoor storage. The amount of storage had increased significantly. So it went from property maintenance to zoning. We're told that she is going to consolidate the buildings after our meeting. We did notice also that material had not only stored on this particular lot, but the lot, it kind of spilled over into the lot next door as well. I think they're both owned by the same owner, but at any rate, it really increased. That's my point.
And structures were not permitted?
Non-permitted, correct. Okay, we do receive several calls concerning this matter. It just continues, we receive calls all the time. Anyway, the applicant, in filling out the conditional use permit worksheet, states that the requested conditional use permit is justified because it is an essential use, and that when receiving items in, moving items out of storage to sell, I am a thrift shop, repurpose shop. I remake items to sell as well as refurbishing. I tarp everything that is outside as requested, but the wind sometimes removes it. Also, the conditional use would promote the public health, safety, or welfare by I'm providing useful, cost-efficient items for people in the community as a low/reduced price where they can afford to buy, sell, or trade for other items. Conditions that would eliminate or minimize adverse effects of the proposed use in the zoning district are: A, any outside buildings will be tarped and kept as an organized mess. B, to be allowed to hold a yard sale 2 times a month on the weekend, set up to be allowed on a Thursday. All items will be put away in storage no later than the following Monday. C, new items will be put in storage within 48 hours. D, others will be allowed to set up for yard sales on the same weekend. Removal of all items by Monday. Staff has reviewed the requests. We forward the appeal to the board for your consideration and any further conditions that you deem appropriate. We do have photos that were taken. They're kind of hard to see, but it shows you the 3 structures there. Keep going, Jess. Just scroll through them. No, we've got several.
Has everybody had an opportunity to see the photos?
They're pulling them up. Jess is pulling them up right now.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Just to let you know, Jess is filling in for Sarah Lovell. Sarah, she's right here. Jess is doing a big job.
Yes, she is doing a great job.
As we're pulling up the photos, if the applicant and the person with the applicant will go ahead and sign in with your name and address if you haven't already,
Okay.
that would be greatly appreciated.
We have signed in.
Thank you.
That's the one right there. Sorry, we're plugging in a flash drive, guys. Please be patient with us.
Oh, that's fine.
Thank you, Jessa.
I think they got through the photo. Wow.
Okay, thank you so much. Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? Does this board have any questions for Mr. Davis? If not, it appears the applicant and somebody with the applicant is at the podium. So will the applicant say your name, please?
Yes, Anita Mendra behind me.
Ms. Mendrop Ivy, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. And the other person at the podium, can you state your name?
Beth Hagan.
Ms. Hagan, do you promise to tell the truth?
I do.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. What would you like to add to Mr. Davis's testimony, please?
On the car that's in the yard there, that's my car, and I use it to actually come in and use the back door and things like that, so that car's not there all the time and parked. The rest of the items that are out should be put in, hopefully within the next day or two, to get it in there. I just didn't have enough arm strength to get it all in before, but I am doing everything I can to make sure that everything is compacted and then that the two buildings are actually put together like we requested. And keeping it more organized and controlled. But I would like the
Okay.
opportunity. I would like the opportunity to be able to do the yard sales if possible and keep them within an organized area, not an organized mess, but something decent to actually walk up to and enjoy instead of digging through boxes or whatever the case may be. When the stuff was out there, I had tried to pull some of the stuff out, but I had a helper there, and he got a little bit carried away with his treasure hunt. And needless to say, I had boxes and papers and everything everywhere, so I've been trying my best to keep it clean to the best of my ability.
Okay.
But I would like the opportunity to continue and try to work this business because it seems to be working pretty well.
Ms. Hagan.
Thank you.
I'm the property owner, but Ms. Hagan is my renter. And Ms. Hagan lives in the property and also has a resale shop. She struggles to make a living and she's trying very hard to do this. She rents that lot from me and then she rents the lot next to it. I have seen a significant improvement in the inventory that she has behind the building, and I do believe that she's trying very hard. I would like to see this conditional granted so that Ms. Hagan can continue to operate her business.
The adjacent property, the property that Peel is on is 1521. Which is the adjacent property that you own, 1501 or 1529?
I own 1501 and also the lot in between, which I believe is 1523.
06.
06? Okay.
Okay. I'm showing the one that Ms. Hagan is on is 1521. But
Yes.
That's correct.
But, okay.
And then the lot
Gotcha.
next to that, she rents that also. And then the adjacent property that is 1501 and I own that.
Oh, okay, so there's another piece of property between 1501 and 1521?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a vacant lot.
Like where my car was
Okay.
parked, that's where the vacant lot is.
Okay.
You had stated that you plan on having yard sales monthly or,
Yeah, monthly, two times a month.
okay. Where do those set up when you do that?
Sit in the vacant lot.
Vacant lot.
Mhm. And I'd like to be able to either put tents out or something that we can actually like set up 10 by 10s. I do have a drawing of how I wanted to set it up and actually present it for, everybody in general, even the people that would want to rent the lots. And I'm not sure as far as, there's something here that I had just a few minutes ago that would. I'm looking at the plastic.
If you give this to the board, you have to leave it with the board, and it becomes part of your testimony.
Okay. Understand, thank you very much. Mhm. Oh, yes, also, I would like to try to go ahead and permit for a fencing, like a privacy fencing, so that I can actually cover everything, so that it's not so out there.
Well, that's part of one question I wanted to find out was if the possibilities of some type of privacy
Yes.
fencing around that encloses. Well, several times when I've driven through there, it does look.
And I agree, sir. I agree. I have been very overwhelmed with it, and it's been frustrating. It got overwhelmed. I had people that would show up and drop stuff off at night, and I had no idea that it was even there until the next day. I've tried to keep track of that. But, yes, I would like to go ahead and try to put a privacy fence up so that it's not so obtrusive and it doesn't look so bad there, and, you know, I can contain it a little bit better.
Would be also willing, like say, the existing buildings there need to get permitted?
Well, they
Well,
need to come
there-
down.
yeah.
They have 3 structures.
She needs
Yeah.
to either consolidate 2 of them. She's only allowed 2
Right.
structures, other than the living space.
So, I mean, she'll have to, that'll all have,
Right.
right now
Yeah.
it's illegal.
There will be
Yeah,
2 of them that will be combined, the 2 that have the metal on the outside.
And then we'll need to have them permitted
Yeah.
to make sure that we do meet the building
Okay.
code. Okay.
I understand. And I'm also gonna try to get it painted too. It will still be white, but try to at least put a little bit of coat of paint on it, make it look a little bit better.
Do you have, are there trucks that bring the merchandise, or how do you get the merchandise? Are there people coming in, drop it off?
Some drop it off, and other than that, I bring it in, or others bring it in.
Is there an alley behind there?
There's not an alley, there's a private drive that goes back to another house that's back behind me, and it's part of my drive as well. Or I use like I said, the side lot there to bring stuff in.
I think if it gets fenced in and get the right permits, it's okay. Combine the 2 buildings.
Well, you haven't finished that.
Huh.
There's somebody else in this room who knows what.
Okay. Does this board have any additional questions? The lady who is, that is providing, or is the rentor,
Yes,
what is your name again?
Beth Hagan.
Ms. Hagan, you've made some testimony here tonight about painting and about putting fences up. And please understand that by you making those comments and commitments, that becomes part of your testimony
I am
on
required
what you
to do-
intend to do with the property.
That's correct, sir.
And the expectations would be that you would do that, and that would roll into this testimony.
I understand.
So,
Is there a time frame that I need to have it completed by?
I think that it.
Well, that would be up to this board. If
Okay.
we approve this and had certain qualifications, we would define that time frame.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Does this board have any further questions for Ms. Hagan or Ms. Mandrabavi? If not,
Okay, well, yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, Rob, I guess to Steve, a question, right? She can only have 2 buildings there, so there's 2 small structures. They need to be removed and a larger building put there in their place. But she's talking about combining them, so you can't really connect the 2 together and be.
Now, I also need to know what the allowed square footage is per building, because I'm pretty sure there might be and I'd like to know what that is, so that I can make sure that I fall
Sure.
into that category.
Yep, we can supply you with all that information. Yes, you're allowed a principal structure and 2 accessory structures on the lot. And in highway commercial, I believe that's highway commercial.
And
But they have to meet setbacks.
Yeah,
Right,
they have
right,
to meet
right.
setbacks and lot coverage.
The first building, when it went up, it was a situation where I needed to get something put in there because I just moved in and I was trying to combine 3 storage units. So I put it up to try to put basically most of my personal stuff in there. But that's where that first one came in, and then, like I said, it started escalating, so I had to try to do something from that perspective. But yes, I would take care and make sure that those buildings are down, and then a new one is built, permit is put in.
If privacy fence, basically, would that encompass the property?
That I'm gonna have to determine cost-wise as to where I can put it and how much I can put up. Because this has shut me down to a point where 2 weeks I've been out, pretty much had to shut the whole store down. So everybody thinks I'm closed and I'm not receiving anything, so. But yes, I would like to encompass the whole property if at all possible. But if there's a certain amount that you all would prefer, then I'll follow the guidelines on that.
So you have not
Okay.
gotten any prices as of now for fencing at all?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay.
Is it something that has just come up as far as that goes? When I was talking with Steve and them at the meeting that I had with them, we had talked about something like that.
That's kind of one of those things that almost wanted to be the
Any
first
other
thing
questions?
that would occur.
Any further questions? If there are no further questions, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Anita, if you want to put it this
Is there
way-
anybody here that would like to speak?
Microphones work. You might say that
Is there
again, Rob.
anybody here that would like to, pardon me?
I said, I interrupted you, Rob, I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Is there anybody here that would like to speak for or against Appeal 3488? If so, please approach the podium and sign in with your name and address, please.
Well, my name's William Woodard, and I own the adjacent property at 1529 South Green Street.
Okay. Mr. Woodard, do you promise to tell the truth?
Yes, I do. I promise to tell the truth.
Okay. And what would you like to add, please?
It's not necessarily concerns with what's going on there, is because everybody is, of course, the board and the pictures have seen. And Ms. Hagan's even stated, the appearance of things over there. And the other things I have concerns about with, as it spreads out and the business grows on the size of the lot, there are times I have the property next door, and we're looking at possibly renting it in the parking lot. Is the parking space that they have for that building is about 2 to 3 in the front. They got a private drive, and then they have the field next to it, but a lot of, because if you've seen the front doors face the driveway, point to our parking lot, and quite often there's vehicles in our parking lot unloading, crossing the drive, which if we ain't got nothing going on, if anything, I'm not upset about that. Don't want to be a bad neighbor, but I do have concerns of the appearance of the way it has looked and the spillover of where people are going to park during yard sales. Because unfortunately, I'm not against anybody trying to make a living or have a business or anything like that. We're all in business trying to make a living. Is when you do have this, it's easy for it to spill over into our parking lot, and if we have a tenant that actually takes over the building that we purchased, could be conflict at times, especially on weekends, if you're having yard sales and things. So, I'm concerned how they'll address that issue. If they clean it up, the fence and all that, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not against, that part of it, as long as things are kept tidy and doesn't
Mr.
spill.
Woodard, Mr. Woodard, it appears that, with a 6-foot privacy fence and with no access gates toward your property, I would think that would cut down on traffic in and out of your lot, especially the unloading. Is that what she has proposed here? Is that acceptable to you?
Rob, I think that he isn't talking about the back of the lot. I think he's talking about the front of the lot. Is that
The
correct?
driveway.
The
The driveway
driveway.
side, if you, there's a picture in the slides where it was actually taken across our parking lot to the side. You know, from the yellow pole, from the yellow poles this way is our parking lot. Then there's the private drives in the building and the storage sheds.
So a privacy fence would be
Gotcha.
along those yellow poles, correct?
I don't know,
Is
because
that
I don't know
your
who,
property?
I don't know who owns that driveway. But
I own the driveway, there is an easement for someone, the person that owns the property behind it, to use that for ingress and egress.
Ms. Indra Ivy, I would need you back to the
Well,
podium to make your
Rob-
statement so we can get it
Hey.
into testimony.
Rob, she's
Yes.
by a microphone, but she needs to sit down. And so I showed her she could sit next to this
Okay.
microphone.
And I can get
Okay. I couldn't,
Just pull the
I couldn't see and I
microphone
couldn't
closer
hear.
to you. Hey, Anita, why don't you pull the microphone closer?
Yes, sir.
Anita, there's a microphone on the table. They just need to get it adjusted for you.
That's okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
I will tell you that in the property that's adjacent to this building, the vacant lot, there is a circular driveway and there is there are two exits for this circular drive.
Where the land is, where the lot is.
That's to
Is that where the
the
parking,
right side of the building, correct?
is that
Yes,
where
sir.
you would expect,
That's where she was talking about having the yard sales, and there's an entrance close to that building, and then there's another entrance over close to the 1501 South Green Street building that's being rented by someone else, and there's a circular drive. So there would be adequate
and,
for driving and parking.
and that is where the expected parking and unloading would occur?
Yes.
Okay.
How you,
Thank you, Nita.
Thank you.
have a question. How you gonna keep the people dropping stuff from parking to the other property?
A sign would be one thing, and then directional, making sure that people understand parking is over here. And if the fence is up, they're gonna come into that
So you,
circular area.
you want a fence in, where's the yellow, on this side with the other property, right?
You'd have to
Like
ask
on the
her.
right, like it would be on the right side of the property, would be
Yeah.
like in 2106, 2506, I'm sorry. That and down toward Mr. D's or the
Yeah.
01 property, yeah, and take that whole lot.
On the right side.
Yeah, right there. So it would start over here, the front of the building, it would come down 60 and then cut back with an opening for them to be able to get in.
Yeah,
So
but
it would shield
does
it from the traffic on Green Street going south.
And north.
Would you put the outbuildings, the additional buildings on that field, in that area?
Well, during our discussion regarding that, I was informed that if there wasn't an existing structure, then I couldn't do that.
That's true.
Take them.
Right.
However, the GTS or GPS maps that you all have here still shows a warehouse on that property. I don't think you have an update of what was on there. But there's not one now, so it would go back to that situation is that there's not an existing structure. But we had talked about even attaching it to the building, but because it's two parcels, we can't do that either. So I'm kind of limited as to where to put those and how to take care of it. It became cost efficient for me because renting storage units are ridiculous as far as cost goes. So, and then I unfortunately went through identity theft and everything I had was stolen, so I'm trying to rebuild it. I'm not trying to sort of whine story here or sad stopping story, but this is what's been going on since I moved here.
You have employees,
No,
so
That's
you're
just me.
doing everything yourself.
I have help periodically, but most of them, yes. And then I also work part-time so I can fill in my gaps, so it's been a struggle. But I want to do whatever it takes to make it work. I think it's very viable.
Does this board have any additional questions from Ms. Hagan? Mr. Woodard, we interrupted you. Is there anything more that you would like to discuss with us?
No, sir. I just wanted to address my concerns, since I had the adjacent property about, parking and, I guess, not, where it's gotten a little out of hand over there a couple of times as far as stuff, as Ms. Hagan said, don't want to be a bad neighbor or anything, but also, gotta look out for my interest too. So that's why I was here addressing my concerns that just put before the board, so.
May I say something also to Mr. Woodard in regards to this? As a neighbor, I wish you
Yes.
would have come over to me and said something about the issue regarding that parking, because I would have done something about it and made sure that people, once they got there, could move, so that that would have been an issue for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hagan, or Mr. Woodard, if you're finished, you may be seated.
All right,
Ms. Hagan,
Yes.
if you've given all your testimony, you may be seated.
I would like to turn this in.
Does this,
It's a diagram, basically,
Okay,
to give you
thank
an
you.
idea of what and how I wanted to lay it out.
okay,
You can share it.
This is the building, the existing building and where everything is right now. So this is really, is about sitting here.
I don't think that is,
So this is the vacant lot here. So really, that's not what we're dealing with.
yeah, that's not on this. We're only looking at 1521 South Spring Street, so. Is that right? Did I give the right
That's
one?
correct.
Okay. Well, she's got 1526.
I'm sorry. That's just my error on that paper. It is 1521.
You submitted something for the vacant lot, but that's not on the appeal.
Okay.
So it's not something that they should consider.
Okay.
About what bill was like.
What would I need to do in order for that to be considered filing a
depends,
new
it is.
permit request?
Yeah, you need to go back to Steve, and with your buildings, you need to go back to Steve, to meet with Steve on that.
Okay.
Not permitted buildings. You're
And
gonna
it-
need that.
And it can't,
No matter what happens
Something.
tonight, you got to go back.
okay.
No, because I seen fences like lower. There's one.
yeah, because this only pertains to 1521.
Can you say something like that?
Okay, has everybody had an
I have a
opportunity?
question for them, and maybe if is the fencing and the property between you guys and Mr. Woodard, that way nobody can park over there and drop off stuff. Okay. That be possible?
Unless the gentleman in the back, do you have access? I can do it up to a certain point, I guess, but you're talking about pulling posts and doing a whole lot more work there on that side.
There are, and Mr. Woodard can correct me, on the driveway as you're going in on the left side, there are posts on his property, and I think it would be difficult to put a fence between that driveway and those posts.
Yeah,
I think any fence would have to be behind the building on either side, but it would be difficult. And she could put signage about no parking on his property.
Which I usually do. When I have anything like that, I usually post it's a private drive and just stay out of it. And I had parking signs, posted where they were supposed to come and park.
there seems like there's a lot here that's got to get worked out as to fencing where, and the permitting for the buildings, and all. I am almost wondering if you actually need to get back with Mr. Davis and get all of your ducks in a row and know exactly what's gonna happen here. We've got a lot of things that we're saying we'd like to do, but we don't have a, firm commitment as to what it is.
Well, and what you could do is you could table the appeal, and then if you want to add another conditional use for the other property, you can do that, stuff, and then come back and you all can hear them. You still have to hear them as two different appeals, but some of the questions that you all have tonight, that no one seems to, you have questions that you can't answer. You could always have the right to table it and then bring it back to your next meeting. If you feel uncomfortable.
Well, I'm wondering because, ideas of the fencing and things like that, until someone has gotten some figures together and knows what expense they're going to incur, because if we say, yes, you're going to do it, you may find that it's more than you
Oh, it's
can.
gonna be more than I can afford at this point, but it's something that I wanna try to, if I need to go
Yeah.
get financing or whatever.
Well, that's where I'm trying to wonder about whether it would be safer to maybe to try to table this and then let her get with you and get everything worked out. I mean, she could get the buildings permitted definitely, which is one thing we've got to get, that would be a stipulation anyway that had to be done. And try to get some type of actually diagram of what we're going to talking about. It's so vague, it's hard to really pinpoint what's going to happen. I think we could say yes, we approve it, but we don't really know what's going to happen once we say that.
Well, you have to place conditions. This is a
No.
conditional use. So I think what I'm hearing from you is you don't know what conditions Cannaga is, you don't know what conditions are going to be allowable in this area.
Right.
That's what I was under
Well,
the impression that I would receive, the conditions for how to lay it out or what you all expected.
I tend to agree with Mac. I think we're kind of designing on the fly, and that's not our role. The design should be set when it comes to us, and then we can condition that design if we want more. I feel, Mac, I'm leaning with you on this.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's the case, I would like to make a motion that we table this for the present time until Ms. Hagan can get all her information together and get it to Mr. Davis. That's what she wants to do.
And with that, I would like to ask, prior to that motion in a second, I would like to ask our attorney can they continue business on the lot during this time?
Okay, you're
That needs to be bigger.
you're talking about the,
It doesn't need to get any bigger than it is.
I think
in
that,
reference to the building I'm in, right?
I'm asking that to our attorney.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, sorry. Is it the building that we're referring to, the actual building or the lot?
it's the building that you're in.
For you to
For me
for
to
you to
continue
continue
business.
running your business, I'm asking our attorney if you can continue to run your business in between now and the next time you're in front of us.
Right. I think that what you can do is run it out of your building, but I think that we probably need to give you a deadline to get to codes, get your buildings in the back. They're illegal right now.
Understand.
So they should not be there.
Understand.
And probably in the next, you need to get with codes in the next 15 days and appear back in front of this board by the next hearing that we have, which will be in the month of July. And at that point, you know, if they don't condition it, you can still operate your business in the building. This is an outdoor storage question. This isn't really the question that Rob has right now is, can you continue outdoor storage, not whether you can continue to run your business. You understand what I'm saying? So you can run your business in the building, but you need to, in the main, and you know what I mean, in the main building. But you need to get with codes to get those buildings, those other buildings.
And I got it.
Right. And then you need to appear back, if you're going to continue to try to store items outdoors, got to come back to the next hearing and have a plan to go with your conditional use. If not, then you will not be permitted to have outdoor storage. That means all of that will be illegal, and then that will go back to code enforcement board because you'll be in violation of code enforcement ordinances. Right now, you're sort of in violation
I
of
know,
code
understand.
enforcement ordinances. So the code enforcement board could actually cite you.
All right, so if I say, want to amend that I'd like to table this motion until she can get with Mr. Davis and get all of her ducks in order. She may still continue her business, but it cannot expand beyond where it is right now. In other words, we can't get more stuff in there. You gotta work with what you got. And
Therein lies the problem with the lot next door, because it allows me to spread that out so I can sell it and get rid of it.
Well, and your lot next door, you can include.
Understanding that was a mistake on my part when I went to
No,
fill it
I
out.
understand that, but also understand that if code enforcement board should cite you, that's a different board than this board.
Understand.
And I'm not the attorney for the code enforcement board. So code enforcement could cite you and you have to appear in front of code.
Understand.
I think that if you all get back here in July, the code enforcement board probably will defer to this board for a month. But I think that you probably need to include in your motion that she can appear before this board next month.
okay, yes. The motion also that you need to be here for the next meeting next month to have determine what exactly you're going to be doing.
Sir?
All right?
Second.
Rob Marco seconded the
Seconded.
motion.
Yeah. He lost her volume.
He's muted.
Rob, are you muted?
He's muted.
Yes, I am. Rambling away. So we got a second from Marco. Justin, may we get a vote?
Mac,
Yes.
Marcos,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Anita, Ms. Hagan, Appeal 3488 has been tabled until our next regularly scheduled meeting, and we would like to have a more definitive approach to how the property will be managed. Sorry we couldn't come to a decision tonight, but thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing what you bring forth.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Is there any other business to come before this board this evening? If,
I'd like to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
okay. A motion to approve, a second?
Second.
Okay, vote please.
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Marcos.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So
See
made.
ya. Well, it is.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
This was the